know what we came to do.
Hey,
You know what we came to do. Look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
welcome back, college football fans. Another episode of HBCU Flicks. Let's get to that. It's that time, man. Another weekend. I believe this is week 6. I think we're on week 6, college football fans. I think so, but let's get to it. Oh, man, we got a great slate for you guys this week. A slate filled with some new teams to talk about. We're going to talk about A&T this week for sure, but we'll get into that. First, as always, let's get into our tweets. Now, Coach G hopped on here. I wasn't going to let anybody get back on the tweets twice. You know, he got the 1, 2. So I'm going to let him because he's the homie, but let's talk about it. Let's put this tweet into context first. So this tweet was speaking about Alabama State and their defensive line. They lose Brandon Gaddy to the NFL, and they also lose Nelson Jordan to the professional ranks. So we end up having a conversation. And G said this: I think they're banking on developing what they have and some young guys that are going to have to step up. They'll be fine on the edge. Interior is where they'll need huge production. And he said a word I haven't heard in a long time, guys. It starts with D. Development. I haven't heard that word in maybe 2 years. I've heard another word, though, that's kind of been ringing bells everywhere. The transfer portal, like any variation of that, I've been hearing that. But I have not heard much about development, right? Some guys may develop. And the thing is, I think development in today's college football game is changing. You may be at a school for 1 or 2 years and you move on to another school for 2 years, and you still may end up going to NFL. You may be developed at both the schools. But we haven't seen a lot of guys stick to their guns and stick it out at their particular schools as of late. So development is something different for me, honestly. It kind of is like rolling back the clock at this point. But HBCUs and developing, they've been known to develop players for years, historically. And I think now the rest of the college football landscape definitely has to really push development along with their program. So we'll get into our playbook. Our playbook we got for the A&M, the RAC Boyz 2.0. I'll get into them. We're going to talk about some Marcus Riley, one of my favorite receivers heading into the SWAC this year. North Carolina A&T recruiting. They picked up a 4-star and 2 3-stars in this past month. We're going to talk about those guys. And then lastly, we got Morehouse, and they're doing a mega camp with Coach Deion Sanders. Coach Prime is coming to Atlanta for the first time in a minute, maybe since Celebration Bowl, actually. And they're going to have a big mega camp this weekend. So we'll talk about it, man. But first up, I really want to talk about, not A&T, man. Sorry, man. I want to talk about the RAC Boyz first. Then we'll get into some A&T talk. But in talking about the RAC Boyz, give me a little history lesson out now. The RAC Boyz was originated in the 1990s. 1998, Coach Billy Joe of FAMU put together a stellar team that actually won the most games consecutively in school history and broke tons of offensive records and defensive records. Offensively, these wide receivers caught for 5,000 yards. 5,000 yards accumulated, man. We probably will never see nothing like that again. They had 54 touchdowns as a wide receiver group. I don't care if you got 7 dudes. 54 touchdowns is a lot. That's almost 8 per person. This was a great FAMU team. The wide receiver core was led by FAMU legend Jaquay Nunnally. And, man, what a team. So, RAC Boyz 2.0, they brought in a couple of players that I think could turn this team back into the top receiving team in the SWAC. Last year, Xavier Smith led the SWAC with 1,000 receiving yards. No other receiver in the SWAC caught for 1,000 receiving yards. So people have been asking, well, how do you replace that? So FAMU has answered. They brought in at least 4 wide receivers this offseason. From Marcus Riley at Bethune-Cookman, last year he caught for 563 yards. And an offense that really wasn't that good, ladies and gentlemen. It really wasn't. He made do with what he could. So let's take a look at Marcus Riley and what he's done for Bethune-Cookman and what he could bring to this RAC Boyz team. He's a very quick player, man. He's going to make a lot of crazy catches. He makes the catches you think he can't get to, right? And talking about the RAC Boyz, not only can he catch well, he also is great after catching the rock. His speed allows him to run away from corners and safeties. A lot of times last year, Bethune-Cookman matched him up in the slot just to take advantage of safeties that have issues covering. You can see here with Mississippi Valley, he takes him up top, throws the defender off of him, then strolls into the end zone for a 56-yard touchdown. Marcus Riley is a game breaker that you want on your football team. FAMU absolutely got them a stud, and picking up a guy like Marcus Riley this late in the season, honestly. They pick him up in the transfer portal after a move. He's been there for about, I would say like a month, a little over a month now. But Marcus Riley, to me, is your go-to guy. You want to say who's going to replace Xavier Smith? Well, it's a couple answers, and one of them starts with Marcus Riley. So next, we have a couple other returners that are on the team. John Marie Shareed, who had about 600 yards last year. David Manigo, who's up to about 400 yards last year, are primed for big seasons this year coming up as returning players in a FAMU offense that they've been in their whole career. Actually, John Marie Shareed actually transferred in, so not his whole career, but the better part of 3 years is good enough to learn a playbook, right? And here we go. I've got two more guys I really like. Jamari Gassett, University of Buffalo wide receiver, transfers into FAMU. He kind of reminds me a little bit of John Marie Shareed. He does some of the same work, in particular kick returning, punt returning. He's a gadget guy also. He's another toy for Coach Willie Simmons to play with in this FAMU offense that I think is guaranteed to air the ball out this year. 10 running backs or not. When you have a passer as good as Jeremy Musa, who is the returning leader in passing yards in the SWAC, you're going to air the ball out. And to do that, you got to have the weapons. And he has all the weapons he needs. Now, talking about Jamari Gassett, he is a typical RAC boy. And I'll say the typical RAC boy in the new age lingo because he's under 6 feet. Pretty much all of these FAMU receivers are under 6 feet. That's just how they get down. I mean, I don't got too many problems with it. They do have one receiver, though, that is around 6 feet, and that's one of their younger guys just coming in. Quan Lee, transfer, former 4-star receiver out of UCF, transfers into FAMU. He didn't get a chance to get on the field for UCF, so now he's getting his chance here at FAMU, and we'll see what he does with his opportunity. And then lastly, we got Chris Reed. Chris Reed is a former 3-star transfer from Utah, did not play at Utah at all. But he comes to a FAMU team that needs receivers, needs some guys to make some moves, and he's a guy listed at around 5'10" also. I always look at 5'10" a little funny. 5'10" usually means 5'8" in most terms. I don't think I even know the true size of a 5'10" person, to be honest. I'm so skewed by my football playing days. But these are your receivers. These are the guys that are going to do it. David Oxidai, another guy with great hands, is a guy that's going to do it for this FAMU team. This is the new RAC Boyz. This is what you got. These are Jeremy Musa's targets. Another guy out the backfield for FAMU that I like is Leland Wilhoit. I think he'll get a good chance to get the ball out of the backfield and get into his hands and into some space. So, in going from the RAC Boyz, we'll go from the RAC Boyz to North Carolina A&T, man. Caught a little flack for not putting North Carolina A&T on my too early rankings, and I fired back a little bit. But that wasn't to say I don't like North Carolina A&T and their team this year. I kind of like them. I think they're in a difficult position, even though they have having a head coach that's a new head coach, having possibly a new starting quarterback, moving into a new conference in the CAA. I think they could have some trouble. But bringing in this type of talent gives you a chance. If you're A&T, you want to have a chance this year. You want to be competitive, want to at least get to around 5 wins, right? So a guy that I think that can help you get to that 5-win mark is this guy, Damon Harmon. Damon Harmon was used in a very peculiar way in this Brett Venables defense. And coming to North Carolina A&T, I think he'll be a more natural safety. But in the Brett Venables defense, he didn't start very much. I'll start with that. He didn't start very much. He played a lot of games at Oklahoma. While at Oklahoma, he played 18 games through 2 years. Only started 3 games. Now, the reason why he played those 18 games was, in particular, he was in a 3-3-3 package. With Brett Venables' defense, he brought in a philosophy from defensive coordinator from Iowa State, John Heacock. and John Heacock's defense is 3-3-3. Now, with this 3-3-3 defense, I'll bring it up here to give you guys a better look at it. With the 3-3-3 defense, Damon Harmon played as a third safety. Now, when you were if you're the third safety in this 3-3-3 defense, you kind of act as a rover. I'll move this over a little bit so you can see the offense also. But you kind of act as a rover. This is Damon here. Do that up for you guys. That's Damon here circled. He's going to be your rover type of situation in this 3-3-3 defense. Now, in talking about the 3-3-3s and what is it? Well, all right, so you got 3 linemen here, right? You got your 3 linebackers. It's your third linebacker here. Now, your strong linebacker is always going to be on the field, to the field side. If you don't know the field side is away from that hash there. Now, with this set, Damon Harmon, as his rover safety, usually lines up to the field side, not usually at the boundary. And he's usually in the mix of a lot of different plays. He makes a lot of different plays. It seems kind of unorthodox, right? Because it's kind of like your hybrid nickel. So then you got your last range of your 3 is your safeties, right? So you got your 3, 2 safeties out here. 2 corners out here, right? So in this 3-3-3, a lot of times Damon Harmon was matched up with sometimes the best gadget players on other teams, right? Locked up with him. And I think Damon Harmon, what he does in coverage and his zone is pretty good. He's a pretty good tackler. But I think he'll really excel in a North Carolina A&T traditional defense where he can just sit back and play safety, whether he plays in the box or center field, and really be able to make plays. Now, another guy they brought in was Kenny Christian, a former 3-star running back out of Virginia Tech. So if you don't know, North Carolina A&T did lose a running back to Virginia Tech, Bayshore Tootin. So it seems in some sort of trade of sorts, Kenny Christian commits to North Carolina A&T as a running back. Now, Kenny Christian is of the big size running backs that North Carolina likes. Coach Vincent Brown, if he doesn't like anything, he likes some big running backs. Every running back on this team is at least 6'2". At least 6'2". Kenny Christian joins that list as another 6'2" running back. He can be an impact for this team. As far as depth at the running back position, I think that this North Carolina A&T team is maybe run-centered, and quite honestly, they're going to use all the guys. I think all the guys get a chance in this North Carolina A&T offense. Now, we got Rashad Purnell. Rashad Purnell is a transferred defensive lineman out of Liberty University. And Rashad did not get a chance to touch the field these past 2 years, so I took a look at his high school film, and he definitely plays defensive end. I wouldn't say he's more of a pass rushing guy, maybe a better with the run fits at the collegiate level. I'd like to see him now. You know, it's kind of hard judging the guy off a film from 2 years ago. It's extremely difficult and can be wildly inaccurate at times. In college, you see the most development in your life as a college football player. So I think Rashad Purnell, former 3-star, can be a factor for this North Carolina A&T defense. I mean, quite honestly, in high school, he got to the backfield pretty easily. He had a lot of tackles for loss, and he was always in the mix. He wasn't necessarily putting a lot of pressure on quarterbacks sitting around the pocket, but he's in the mix on run plays and run gaps. You want a defensive lineman with some type of play recognition, especially a guy that's on your edge. Then, lastly, we'll talk about the blue chip, all right? The blue chip, and I really mean blue chip. This is a guy this year, other than R.J. Baker, that committed to Norfolk. I haven't been that excited about too many athletes joining HBCUs this offseason. But this guy, Jalen Hicks, running back, wide receiver, high school player, just committed to North Carolina A&T. Follows in the footsteps of his father, an A&T great. And, man, all I can say is Jalen Hicks is going to be something to watch this fall if he gets a chance to get on the field. I think he will. I honestly think he will. I think there's almost no way you can't keep him off the field. As a running back, he's 6'4". 6'4". I can count on my hand how many 6'4" running backs I know, and I think this stops right here at 1. I think that's it. I think it's just Jalen Hicks. So, to me, Jalen Hicks is your phenom. You can play him anywhere. Running back, wide receiver, return, just get him on the field. He reminds me of a running back that went to the University of Southern California, USC, named Dylan Baxter out of San Diego. There was a time when Reggie Bush was at USC. There was a time when Joe McKnight was at USC. And once they both left, there was a guy named Dylan Baxter that was in the same class as Robert Woods that was committed to USC. Went there for about 2 seasons. He was 6'3", running back. make crazy plays. So let's take a look, man. Jalen Hicks reminds me of this guy. Jalen Hicks is definitely bigger at 6'4", though, right? So this guy's, you're going to see him a lot of times just streaking down the field. This next play, I really like the way he reads defenses. He runs against angles. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to run against angles, and that's what he does. And look at this here. Going right by guys. His acceleration is different. I haven't seen this type of acceleration from a guy with no stars in a long time. This guy is not ranked by 24/7 Sports or any other major recruiting database. But what Jalen Hicks does is simply amazing. I think that he's one of those guys. He's a guy that you just give the ball to at the start of the game. You let him touch the ball first, right? So I'll be interested to see how his development goes. I think he does need to gain some weight to be an everyday running back for North Carolina A&T right now. I'm not sure if he even cracks the running back rotation, which is the reason why I think he should probably go to slot receiver. Now, he needs to catch more naturally with his hands to do something like that, but I could see it. At 6'4", that type of size, if you give him the ball close to the line of scrimmage, it won't be that hard. Even in handing the ball off or giving to quick screens, it won't be that hard. I think in the kick return team and punt return team, he's going to be super special this year. I think there's no way he doesn't see the field early, in my opinion. But we'll see how Coach Vincent Brown runs his offense and his team and see how much looks, actual freshman will get. But I think a legacy guy like this that is this good has to get a look. This guy ran for 99 rushes last year for 1,000 yards. That's 10 yards a carry. Now, the competition don't look the best. Keep it buck. A lot of dudes look a little small on defense, trying to tackle him. Got to keep it real. But the type of talent I'm watching right here, this translates. He's a one-cut running back. Being a one-cut running back in college football in high school, it translates to college football. Absolutely. If you can be a one-cut guy that can put his head down into the ground and you choose to go into a person instead of trying to bounce it out again, you're going to get some time. You're going to get a look. So I really like that guy. Jalen Hicks, absolute stud at running back, and I think he's going to be a problem in the CAA in years to come. You better just go ahead and bookmark that. So North Carolina A&T and what they've done this past month, about maybe month and a half, has been pretty strong recruiting. And these guys are all guys that are going to play now. This isn't the class 2024. This is 2023 guys that they're grabbing and going to be able to use this fall. So I'm a little interested to see how North Carolina A&T puts together their offense this year coming up because, quite frankly, they got it all. I don't really see anything that they don't have at this point. So give me a sec. I'm going to bring up this Morehouse flyer. So we got a Morehouse camp, mega camp this week, and the mega camp it's going to be pretty crazy. You're going to bring Coach Prime back to Atlanta. So let me bring it up for you guys. That should be it. And there we go. Now with this Morehouse mega camp, man, this is a testament to what Coach Wiltshire has been putting together at Morehouse. As of late, he's brought in a couple good recruits. Brought in the 6'8" recruit down at not too far from me at Fullerton Junior College that is going to play quarterback for Morehouse this year, or have at least a chance to play quarterback for Morehouse this year. But along with that, he adds this big HBCU mega camp, Morehouse mega camp in Atlanta at that, with Coach Prime. Coach Wiltshire is moving different. If you want to talk about a coach or a program that is on the rise, I would say Coach Gerard Wiltshire and Morehouse football. I think it's going to take about a year. I told Ty on Twitter, I think it's going to take about a year, maybe 2024. But I do think this Morehouse team is on a different trajectory than we saw before under Coach Rich Freeman. It just looks different. It feels different. It smells different. There's nothing else can you call it. We talking about a football team, Morehouse program that has new turf. They just teased new matte maroon helmets. They're having a mega camp with Coach Prime. I mean, maybe it's just the timing, but I haven't seen any of these things happen under Coach Rich Freeman. Everything is moving in the right direction for Morehouse right now, and I think that Morehouse football is really positioning themselves for that leap into contention in SIAC conference play. If we're being real, I think one more recruiting cycle for Coach Gerard Wiltshire will get him what he needs to win now. I don't think he has what he needs to win now. I think he's kind of stuck with what was handed to him last year, and the team may be somewhat average or maybe below average, right? They have a very tough schedule. They start 7 games on the road. Coach Gerard Wiltshire is building a program. Everybody in the HBCU space can smell it. You can feel it. You can tell what's happening right now. Anybody knows football knows when football is being run right and run correctly. And right now, what Coach Gerard Wiltshire has been doing at Morehouse is pretty exceptional. I think through recruiting, through increasing his brand, and also keeping Morehouse relevant throughout this offseason has been very important in what he wants to build at Morehouse. They even had Michael Vick on campus, talking to the education side of campus nonetheless. But still, having Mike Vick on campus is something you couldn't even imagine Morehouse doing. Some people rumored that Mike Vick could coach at Morehouse, right? To have him on campus, and for Coach Gerard Wiltshire, he tweeted it, so I'm assuming maybe he made that connection with him, went and go talk to him or something. Even having that connection to Mike Vick sets you apart from so many other HBCUs. And Morehouse being in Atlanta really has been primed for this for some time. The SWAC has long been looking for another member to accompany Tennessee State on a move to the SWAC. Can't find a partner. Can't find one. The SWAC is also, we'll talk more SWAC and possible Morehouse move another time. But it's definitely something in my mind to think about. But Morehouse and what they've done has been great. Coach Gerard Wiltshire, kudos to you and what you have done, sir, at Morehouse. I think Morehouse is a year away, and in 2024, we'll be talking about Morehouse way more when it comes to football. So that's been my show for the week. This week, you guys, thanks again for joining me and talking more college football with me. If you agree, disagree, want to talk about it, hit the comments. We could do that. Also, hit me on Twitter. On Twitter, it's nothing. At Kelly Flicks with 2 S's. We could talk about it there. Or on Instagram, man. Just hit me. I'm always available. But this week, I'm out. Peace.